What's up, everybody? I wanted to do a video reviewing the Seiko SPB051 and explaining why I sold the Breitling Superocean 242 in favor of the Seiko 62 Moss reissue. There are a lot of reasons why, and first and foremost is cost. The Seiko you can get for somewhere around $800 to $1,000, and the Breitling is about 3 times that much. And really, other than the name, the Seiko holds its own. The other thing about the Breitling Superocean 242 is the polished bracelet, which is really flashy. It's a scratch magnet. Here you can see in my review of the Breitling just a few things about it. Here's a clip from my review from the Superocean 242 review, and you can see that it, with that really polished bracelet, it's a scratch magnet. It is a bit flashy, especially if you're not used to the, if you're used to brushed versus polished. It takes a lot to get used to that band or bracelet. Additionally, I'd be the first to admit that I am a bit of a Seiko fanboy. I own several SKXs, and I own several other Seiko watches that I really like. And I think Seiko really doesn't get the respect it deserves, both in terms of its general line watches, its Presage line of watches, and certainly Grand Seikos, while they do get a lot of respect, there's an argument that they're superior to most of the luxury watches out there, especially when you get into the level of Breitling, you get in the level of Rolex, Bell and Ross, and some of the others. You really can't beat the spring drive Seikos. But for today's purposes, what I really want to do is talk about why I prefer the 62 Moss reissue, the SPB 051 over the Superocean 42. Alright, so here is the 62 Moss reissue or reinterpretation from Seiko. It is the SPB051. They do make an SPB053, which is the same watch, with a blue bezel, darker blue dial, and it only comes on a blue rubber strap. One of the things I really like about this Seiko is it does have Seiko's DiaShield coating, which is supposed to help scratches both with the bracelet, and it also has the coating over the aluminum bezel there. The dimensions of the watch are 42.6 millimeters in diameter, and it is 13.8 millimeters in thickness. It really is a good sized watch. I think it probably wears a little bit bigger than 42.6 to me. At least the width-wise, it feels more like about a 44. A few things I really like about this watch, of course, are the markers on the dial. Have Seiko's LumiBrite on them, and they're bright. They stay bright forever, and once charged up, you can read it. I mean, you just can't miss Seiko Lume. They do such a good job. The bezel itself does have the markers on it. These are not lumed. I mean, the pip at 12 is lumed, but I also like the fact that it does have the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 all the way around, unlike something like the Rolex Submariner that has the 5, 10, 15, and then just markers the rest of the way around. I do like that. I don't dive, so it's not a big deal for me. I think it gives this watch, though, a nice industrial look. The hands are great, you know, the big triangle hour hand, and then the sword minute hand, I think, do very well. And of course, then we have the reverse flying meatball for the second hand, which is interesting. With the bottom of it being loomed instead of the top, it gives you a really unique perspective when you're looking at it at night when the lume is charged. I think the dial itself, the matte black, is done very tastefully. You know, we do have the double sticks there at 12, and then the single sticks the rest of the way around, with 6, 9 being a little bit thicker, and of course the outline date window at 3 o'clock. This does have Seiko 6R15 movement, which is hand windable and hackable, and has a 50-hour power reserve. So this movement is a newer one from Seiko, although it's getting to be about 14 or 15 years old. In fact, I think it was introduced back in 2006. And just out of the box, it comes regulated to -15 to +25 a day. I will tell you, in the couple years that I've had this, and I got it right when it came out, I've never had to have it regulated, and I'm probably within ±5 to 10 a day. And I've never had any problems with it. One of the things I really like about this watch is that it really doesn't have crown guards. You can see that the case is recessed a little bit. The crown goes in, so it does provide some protection, but it doesn't have protruding crown guards, which I think gives it the classier look. And again, I think that's something they were looking for with a 62 Moss reissue. Another thing I really like about this watch is just the way Seiko did its brushing and polishing, both on the case. The top of the case is brushed. The side of the lugs are polished there, and they did a good job with the bracelet itself, which has a really nice brushed appearance. The Diashield coating on it, I think, gives it a bit of a satin look, and they did a really good job. It does, of course, have a sapphire crystal that is really a bit double-domed and anti-reflective, and it's easy to see in all lighting situations. The chapter ring inside the rehaut is nicely done. Everything is perfectly aligned, and it kind of mirrors the outside of the bezel in terms of it does have a minute marking for each minute. It gives it a nice aesthetic. You can see it's slightly slanted down, and gives the watch an overall nice 3D appearance when you look at it. And I think overall the case and the dial, the bezel, are all very well done by Seiko on this watch. This is a watch that, like I said, I think it rivals any watch in its category, up to probably about the $3,000 price point and maybe beyond. I would put this watch up against a Submariner in terms of everyday wearability and functionality. Now, it's not a chronometer. It doesn't have the crown logo on it, but if you've watched any of my videos before, I used to be a huge Rolex fan, and with what Rolex has done with the market, and the fact that Rolex really isn't innovating anymore, I've really kind of come down from being a Rolex fanboy to the point where I used to own 7 or 8 Rolexes, and now I own 0. And I'll probably do a video at some point on all the Rolexes I've owned and why I sold each one of them. I've got pictures of all of them, and I'll likely go through them and just kind of give a description of what I liked and didn't like about each one of the ones I've owned. But getting back to the 62 Moss reissue, you can take a look here. You see it's got a really nice milled clasp. It works very well. It has the typical Seiko case back with the Seiko Wave screw down. And of course it is waterproof to 200 meters. This is part of Seiko's Prospex line, so it is a diver's 200 meters. It's a true 200 meter capable watch. A couple of other things I really like about this watch. I love the fact that it has drilled lugs. I'm a big fan of drilled lugs. I know that's a personal preference. A lot of people don't like them. I do. First of all, I don't change bands and straps that often, but it makes it very easy to do so if you want to. It does have several micro adjustments for there that makes it easy to change your micro adjustments if you want to. Additionally, the one downside to this watch that I don't like but it doesn't matter for me because I don't dive, is the way that the diver's extension works. I am not going to try to demonstrate that for you. It is a pain in the ass, and every time I try to do it, it takes me forever to get it undone and redone. There are videos out there you can see if you want to see how it's done, but it does have a nice diver's extension. I'm just not a fan of the way it works on this Seiko. It does have the fold-over safety clasp, and then it is a double locking deployant mechanism, which is great. I've never had this thing come undone or fall off or anything like that. So, all in all, the reasons that I decided to keep this and sell the Superocean 242 millimeter is I just like the aesthetics of this watch better. I sold the Superocean II for $2,600. This watch I bought for about $800, so it was about a third of the cost. And on an everyday wear watch, this thing does just fine for me. In fact, a few things I like better about this watch, I've mentioned a few of them. I like the fact that the bracelet is brushed and not polished. I like the DiaShield coating that Seiko puts on this watch. It just makes it much less scratch resistant. I like the curves of this case better. I like the way the functionality of the case is. And when we take a look here at the bezel itself, it has a nice bezel action. It turns very easily. If there's one thing that I might criticize this watch for, is that the bezel turns almost too easily. Not a huge deal, but you know, maybe once or twice a day I'll look down and I'll see that the pip has moved from the 12 o'clock to 59, 58, 57 on the dial, just because I have brushed up against something and it has moved. It does move quite easily. That's probably my only complaint about this watch. I love the size of the watch. I love the aesthetic, not having the crown guards. I love the size of the crown. Accuracy-wise, it has been fine for me. So to sum up all of the things I really like about this watch, they're pretty simple. I really like the fact that compared to the Superocean 242, that it does have the brushed bracelet. I also like the fact that Seiko put its DiaShield coating on it. It gives it a bit of a satin look, but also protects the bracelet and the bezel from being scratched. And I really like the look of the aluminum bezel with the DiaShield coating. It gives it a really nice glossy look. It looks different than aluminum, and it looks different than ceramic. It kind of gives you a bit of a throwback feel, which again I think is what Seiko was looking for with the reissue or reinterpretation of the 62 Moss. I really love the lines of the case, the way the lines flow, and I really like the offset between the brushing on the top of the case versus the polishing on the sides. Like the Superocean 242, this is a watch that you can pretty much wear with everything. You can wear it casually. I do wear it with suits. I think it looks just fine wearing it with suits. But I think just based on cost, for me, I can't justify keeping the Breitling Superocean 42 around when this watch does everything it does and I like it better. That's not to say that this is a better watch. It's just a better watch for me. And if you're looking for a little bit higher than entry-level dive watch, but you're looking for something sub $1,000, I think this is a good watch to look at. It's a good choice in that price point, and you could certainly do much worse than this. I own several Tag Heuers. I would put this watch higher in quality than most of my Tag Heuers. I have had several problems with my tags. I like them, but you know, this here is just a beast and a workhorse, and you really can't go wrong if you're looking for somewhere between entry level and a mid-tier sports dive watch. So this has just been a brief review of the SBD SPB051 and why I personally prefer it over the Breitling Superocean 242. Again, it's personal preference, and others may feel differently. But overall, again, I can't say enough good things about this watch. There are so many positives and so few negatives that if you're looking for this watch and you're asking, is it worth $700, $800, $900? I will tell you, yes, it absolutely is. So let's take it back to the office and wrap this up. All right, guys, so that's kind of just my brief review of the SPB051 and why I do myself prefer it over the Breitling Superocean, why I sold the Superocean and kept the Seiko. So let me know what you guys think. Post your comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.